I do find it pretty curious with this new film, Black, White, and the Greys, that despite its awards presence, and there's some good regard to it, as well as its story substance / societal relevancy, it sits in the space, at least for me, of being unfamiliar upon initiate encounter. Because this is the first I'm hearing about it today. In fact, the trailer debuted, I believe, maybe a couple hours ago, I forget exactly. But I tried to do some background research to get a good feeling for it. We're going to watch the trailer together in a minute for the first time, as well as I'll read off a synopsis that I did manage to find, which might shed some illumination on how it's being released, perhaps. But I, again, tried to get some background information going in, and there's not even an IMDb page yet, which I find kind of funny. Maybe there will be after the trailer debut. Maybe this is very much fresh eyes for public audiences. But this has some serious recognition in the realm of the awards presence, as I said. Just to read off what they provide in terms of the opening screen of the trailer, again, what's logged here. 3 selection credits on behalf of the Soho International Film Festival, the and the Maui Film Festival 2022. I don't know about the Bronzeless Film Festival of Atlanta, Georgia Best Feature credit. Maybe that was a nomination or a win. Again, I'm not exactly sure, but at least it has 2 wins cited for the Sedona International Film Festival for Audience Choice and Best Feature Drama, as well as the 2022 winner for Best Narrative Feature of Festival of Cinema NYC. Again, like I said, some sophistication in its credits. And the film might get a wider recognition among audiences, not only with the trailer debut, but on part of how it's debuting. Because I'm assuming, given that the synopsis we're about to read, as well as a trailer, is originating, at least from my understanding, from the Indie Rights Movies for Free YouTube channel, that's probably how it's going to be released. And I would imagine, given their patterns, because I cover them quite often, especially in the realm of engaging with smaller fare, which I do routinely. I love the indie space, especially engaging with it, even if maybe the projects aren't the best realized. It's fun to at least initiate the ideas from independent creators and smaller works where there's less constraint compared to perhaps commercial releases. Though I like, major films as well from, larger studios. There's an individuality and a charm to smaller releases, or at least there can be, right? In many cases with the trailers that we engage with. And so I'm assuming, because again, I'm familiar with Indie Rights' channel, that this is probably going to get a debut months from now with them, which again, putting it on YouTube for free, wide distribution. Well, with the consideration of ads as well. But as I was saying, it just surprises me that, again, this film isn't being circulated more in conversation, at least from what I've seen. I've not heard any regard for it until today. Because I look at the synopsis, and again, I see the parallels here. And maybe, again, like I said, you're unfamiliarized as well. This is what you can expect according to the Indie Rights channel's description. A marriage is put to the test when an interracial couple are forced to quarantine together for the COVID pandemic and Black Lives Matter movement. There are key parallels here, right, that anybody could see to social conversation, especially over the recent couple of months, if not years. Well, especially the couple of years. We think back to, the COVID phase and all that, and then as well the BLM issues that were being throttled in regards to news headlines and social media chatter. Like, we were all very well aware of our public surroundings. And so this film's tapping into that. I don't know if it's based on be a true story. I mean, I could give it some real density, I would imagine. And I would find a charm to that too. Again, I love being able to learn about people's stories, especially when they're unbeknownst to me. I like when movies provide that opportunity, and this might go that route. Again, I don't know. Very much, I'm just building presumptions here, which we're going to engage with in a minute. Maybe find out. Maybe we won't. I don't know. Many of you know, as I've cited previously, that I am very much open to social commentary. I've also said in terms of audience engagement, right? This is something you have to consider, especially when you go down this route. How nuanced is the material? And how hospitable is it to audience reach? Because that's what this film to some extent is going to want, right? You've had it, of course, with the awards regard, and that's given it serious prominence, at least in my opinion, even though maybe not every people will count it that way. I don't know, the award space tends to be quite mixed, I think, in regards to delivery, or at least it can be. I'm looking at the recognition, I'm like, okay, at the very least you've set up a tantalizing watch, especially with the high regard to its performance. But, and again, to speak specifically of the Sedona International Film Festival Audience Choice Award for Best Feature Drama. So there's something there. I'm just curious to see, again, with a film that is directly spotlighting social matters, right? And again, I might be open, mostly to any type of material. It depends on perhaps the subject matter. Again, for me, like I said, with social commentary, how nuanced is the material and how hospitable is it to a general audience, right? Because I've seen plenty of cases where you might have a good pitch, but then the articulation of said social matters becomes convoluted in unnecessary deterrence or animus, and there's probably many cases you can mention as well where you've seen the same example play out. Maybe you've watched a project where you feel like you're being talked down to versus having a story portrayed that is well realized to someone's personal experiences in a way that you could perhaps relate to them emotionally, maybe not directly in experiences, but you could see a parallel in perhaps how the person is feeling and embrace the pathos of the piece. That's what I'm curious to about here, because I think we all remember, especially given this is spotlighting recent history to some degree, we all remember perhaps the type of societal energy that was around us in our own surroundings, right? Whether it be in our homes, perhaps in the midst of a lockdown, which was chaotic for everybody, especially emotionally, and that, type of isolation. I could imagine watching a film like this coupled with the other matters, let's say, for example, as this synopsis cites, the BLM adjacency, maybe there is some points of conflict. I mean, again, I'm open to it. In terms of depiction, let's see how well realized the film is. But like I was saying, going into this, it's quite dense of a pitch. So at some level, again, I'm curious, because of the types of topics it's dealing with, it's not being throttled in societal conversation much to the extent that I would expect a film like this to be, even with its regard. Let's see how competent the project is. Again, I'm open to indie fare, but I'll save my ultimate critiques after we watch the trailer together. All right. Let's engage with it, though, and see what it has to offer for ourselves.
I take my daughter to the pool, and the looks we get. And my husband, he has no idea. I have been complacent my whole life.
The family performance is very strong. And yes, filmmaking quality is actually pretty good here. It's almost like a standard TV film released with
people dying of this virus.
a higher degree of competence, in my opinion.
People to have conversations that they were not prepared to have.
I'm a black woman, and you're married to me, and you supposedly love me.
I supposedly
and you can't
love
get
you.
behind this cause.
Where's the day gone?
It's not like when I turn this off, this all just magically goes away.
Where is the sun?
This is our reality.
Who is this person?
What's going on?
Things are just weird right now.
That I have become.
We are living in the weirdest time ever. Up until recently,
Amen.
our daughter had no concept of black and white. Let her be a little girl.
Stand in the doorway. Stare at the sign.
I feel like my entire marriage is falling apart right in front of me, and there's nothing I can do about it.
Sometimes arguing is healthy. It's necessary. It's messy. It's uncomfortable.
I don't want to lose my family.
I washed your body down. Your muddy feet up to your crown.
My dad used to always say, pay attention to who you're with when you're feeling your best.
I'm engaged to understand the ending to this story. I have conclusions perhaps on where the story
People have the right to change.
might be tracking towards.
You're passionate and you're honest. And I will love you the rest of my life.
That name is really good. Again, I think it fits well with the project. How do I explain it? Let's start with the filming side. It's a very competent production, in my opinion. To me, like I said, this is almost like a higher quality TV movie. I don't know the runtime. Again, like I said, there's no information to operate on that front, at least presently. Maybe a 90 to 120 minute movie, somewhere around there. It's a good character drama. It's very sophisticated in the delivery, at least in performance on the visual side matches that. It's an incredibly endearing story as well, performance-wise. I believe all these characters' performances, it comes across to me as deeply authentic. The chemistry between the two leads, or in intentional circumstances, seemingly the lack thereof. is realistic enough for me to go beyond the territory of this is just simply a fictionalized story. Even if, again, maybe this is very much, like I said, inspired by true events. Again, I'm operating here on what was presented in the synopsis, and there just isn't that much information accessible to me at the moment to further engage with it to get a better understanding. Of course, I welcome comments down below if you happen to be someone who's informed of this particular project. What would you have to say in regards to giving us, those of us that very much are initiate explorers of it, what information can you provide to better give us a picture of what this film is realizing? Story-wise, I'm actually quite curious, and I think among every audience member, of course, there's the right to perhaps... Because, I mean, I can see a number of directions this film is going, and again, like I said, this is very much tapping into realistic, and not just in historical sense, but still to some degree, very adjacent conversations we're having to this day. Whatever your feelings are on it, I'm keeping this, open as much as possible, because we might all have different opinions, right? This is tapping into... or it has the potential to go beyond the extent of just social communication as well. It could tap into political commentary. Many of you know I try to avoid that, like the plague. No pun intended with the COVID regard. Because I do try and keep my channel as best that I can accessible to anybody. Though, of course, we might have, differences in opinion from time to time based on perhaps my thoughts on a project or, society in general, right? I'm of course, as I said, it's the viewer's right to perhaps... adhere to or deter from the film's conversation or resolution. Though the impression I get upon looking at this project, again, the question is being, what is going to be the final result of the production? If it were sort of like a meeting in the middle type result, where the film is more like an emotional negotiation. Maybe that's the wrong way to phrase it, but if you have the characters, and I get this sense that you have two characters in very different worlds and different mindsets, rationalizing their views in discussion, right, in hospitality. In regard of a debate or something, there is a likelihood for emotional tension to rise up a bit, but at least, the characters seem to be very humble and respectful of one another, right, because there's the foundation of the marriage at its root, and you have a kid front and center. And again, like I said, the family vibe here is incredibly strong for me on delivery, that I believe it. Let me sum it up best this way in regards to how I see it as a potential viewer. As I've said, the filmmaking quality to me is quite superior, at least in my opinion, to perhaps other films in this space. Or, nah, that's not fair to say. Close to. Like, again, if I were to draw a parallel to TV cinema, which, of course, incorporates routine deliveries of dramas centered around many different types of characters and experiences, this, and especially in the smaller film space, it is quite varied. This is... I would say, based on what I've personally entertained and watched in films along this type of story path, it comes across to me very similar to what I might find in like a Focus Features movie or some sort of other character drama. If you were telling me that it was coming out from a prestige studio, I would believe you. Even though, again, I don't know where his film is originating, there just wasn't that much information for me to go on in initiating with it. And I buy the performances of all the actors here, especially in manifesting this family, which is, by the way, the family structure here of what they're depicting is incredibly realistic, especially even in my personal settings. I happen to know many family models that fit this type of structure. So it is a very, like I said with the story, I don't know if there isn't a 100% point-by-point translation of somebody's real life, right? And even when you're dealing with, cinematic or media translations of different stories, whether they be perhaps in adaptations from one story type to another, or in manifesting somebody's life, right? It's not necessarily a perfect, point-by-point translation, but it's generally, from what I've seen, most of the projects I revere happen to be, especially along these lines, are very faithful, even if maybe they neglect some points for understood constraints, maybe in runtime or the dramatization side of a film project or cinematic work. So the performances in regards to the family, again, I believe it. And the struggles are incredibly realistic, especially in the realm of societal conversation and manifesting that parallel. Though again, as I said, the viewer has the right to adhere or deter from wherever the film reaches a destination. My sense is that watching this, If it does end in that middle ground territory, I would be quite thrilled about it. Because I am very much of the mindset personally where, yes, we might all hold, as I said, to personal, viewpoints and the way we see the world based on our own understandings of morality or our own life philosophies. But I'm very much, keep a door open for conversation type person. That's always been the dynamic I've operated with, in particular because I would love to have that type of response given to me. If I were in a space where I was trying to explain to somebody, if this is something I'm dealing with in life, whatever it might be, again, context could widely vary. I would appreciate, like treat others the way you want to be treated type motto, right? And that's not just from personal, foundations. I also speak as, I made it no secret on the channel that I'm a Christian, right? So that's a defined part of my life, especially on philosophy, right? Always keep a door engaged. It's how you, even if, again, you might reach a point of disagreement, still be willing to entertain somebody's story, right? Stories matter, and people's experiences in life can be deeply transformational. Even to your own understanding of maybe, again, like I said, there isn't an exact, carbon copy type storyline in the way people have lived their lives to one another. It matters to be receptive and open, perhaps, right? And again, retaining the right to be your own individual mind, rather than, conform in a way that would deter, unless there's reason for growth or change. Where I would love this film to end up is, again, maybe at that point of reconciliation with the movie. Because I sense two characters that have widely different views on life and present circumstances. So what you're going to watch is, to some degree, an integration of both perspectives. And there are going to be contrasts. There might be some comparisons. I would love to see this film, again, like I said, continue to offer, if this is true to the trailer, and it might not be, maybe it is, right? Trailers themselves are varied space. You go into a movie one time, you're like, oh, is this project going to be faithful to what I originally, believed based on the first inclination of what I was given via the ad? And the film might not deliver. My sense is that this film will. My sense, based on inclination here and impression, is that the film is going to end in perhaps that gray area, so to speak. Again, like I said, a very apropos name. But I really like at the foundation the pursuit, emotionally, of, while there is this dichotomy of view, at the center is a family, right? These two parents have a child together. And I must say, like I said, the family vibe is very strong, especially on behalf of the little girl. And the music choices help as well to elevate that type of feeling. I forget the tune they use, like I think it was Rockin' Robin. Adds a nice family jive, as I said, even though the trailer does change, I believe, towards the end to get a little more sentimental. But it's highly believable and part of the performances, as I said. What I like about this movie, especially, again, on first judgment, is you have a child at the root, right? So even amidst this disagreement, you have a family that's struggling to maintain their, the two parents are struggling to maintain their bond in respect to having a child together. And it seems by the end, even though there perhaps is some thoughts of disruption, they end in a positive space. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it could be completely different, right? We'll see if we choose to entertain the film. But I'm actually quite curious. As I said, I keep a door open for social commentary, even if, again, the viewer themselves, I would say for me, has the right to, fall into whatever types of views they want, right? That's the individualist mindset. And I would not fault anybody for that at all. But I do truly in my life elevate the open door model, right? Even if, again, we might reach a position of disagreement, we are receptive to other people's stories. Because people have lived vastly different lives, and people have so many stories to tell about where they've been and what experiences molded them. Perhaps the views that they operate from are shaped by joy, by trauma. I mean, there's quite a variety of circumstances, and emotionally, right? So you never know where somebody might be coming from an angle. And those stories are what matters. At least to me. I don't know. I'm digging deep. But, I like exploring indie fare. Like I said, there's a complexity of these projects and an individuality that doesn't always pervade commercial fare. And I will also say it's a strength of the indie market to get these types of authentic stories to a greater degree than what might be portrayed in cinematic endeavors on major studios by comparison is perhaps cliche rife, or there's a feeling of maybe tediousness, or that it's too light. I respect films that go into the blunt direction, again, like I said, real stories, and maintaining an open door even amidst perhaps, eventual disagreement. I sense perhaps a path to that with this movie. I think it's a great example of such a case. So, Black, White, and the Greys, again, I'm just surprised it's not being talked about more, given its points of relevancy in social conversation, as well as its awards recognition, and based on the trailer, its quality. I think it deserves some eyes, even if, again, like I said, many times in this case, final judgment might vary, whether in view or in critique. I think this film sits in a strong window, in my opinion. And my presumption is going to be, again, based on the indie rights designation, this is going to get a wire distribution from them. So it's going to be an easy project to entertain if you wish to. And I will definitely try. And I'd be curious to hear how many of you perhaps share the same opinion, or maybe you deter. If you choose to disclose your perspective, I'd love to hear about it down below. I'm impressed by it on quality and in depth. We'll see what my judgment is on it, based on the full film's unveiling. But like I said, if keeping an open door perhaps in life, I'll keep an open door to this movie. I find it very approachable. And I'd be curious to see the resolution of the story, as well as, like I said, the drama path in these two parents reconciling their differences. Or maybe not, exploring that character study type dynamic, especially in the context of a family that is hyper-realistic. Especially these days, and to my personal surroundings, I'm genuinely curious. I find Black, White, and the Greys quite compelling. Again, that name is just so beautiful, I think, to the essence of this project. To sum up my feelings, I'm truly inclined to give it a view. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.